Absolutely. It absolutely does.
So moving back to this, let's test this and see if this is correct. You think that women are staying away from men and trying to go towards relationship because men are just big meanie heads?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you said, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, if you want to make it sound stupid, go ahead. That's what I said.
Can you explain though why you think that?
If women were happy in their marriages, then giving them the right to participate in society without marriage wouldn't have an impact on marriage. But it does, because they don't like it.
They don't like being married.
Because they're not being treated well in marriage, right?
Oh.
You have.
What about the incentives that they have to get
right
divorced?
Here, she's very happy in her marriage because her husband treats her nicely.
What about the incentives they have to get divorced, though? They have incentives to get divorced.
Yeah, but if you actually like your partner, you're not going to want to get divorced, right? I'm sure
if
Kendall
you have
also
incentives,
has an
you
incentive.
may.
No, Kendall is not going to divorce her husband just for the money. She likes her husband.
Yeah, so what? Kendall's not every woman. When you talk about incentivizations back the other direction, what you're saying is there's no possibility that there could be incentivizations the other direction, which could convince a woman to leave her husband. That's what you're saying.
If she doesn't like him, yeah, there are a lot of incentives. But if he's treating her perfectly well and she is perfectly healthy as an individual as well, then there should be no problem. She would have no reason to leave.
Agreed.
So hang on.
Why would Kendall leave a perfectly happy
I understand what
marriage?
you're saying. I just want to grant it. I want to make sure I'm not strawmanning you, so I'm going to steel man it back to you. If a woman's happy in her marriage, even if there's incentives, she's going to stay. Or the problem is either that she's actually miserable because of the way he's treating her, or there's something wrong with her.
Correct.
Then the logical extension of this would be then that you actually believe that women are initiating most marriages because there's nothing wrong with them, but because it's men's fault.
No, I think a lot of women get married too soon.
So it's their fault?
I don't think women get married soon enough.
It's both?
Yeah.
Then
why,
if it's both, then how come men aren't initiating those divorces as much as women?
They do as well.
They don't.
They do sometimes.
Sometimes, but why aren't they as much as
for the record?
Wait, pause. Okay,
it makes sense for them not to want to.
Wait 1 second. Well, please, wait 1 second.
Because they actually do.
Women really love to romanticize love. On the flip side, men are very logical thinkers, and they're okay with going with the problems. When there's a problem after problem, most times women are like, I'm out, I'm done. It's because of this. We want to get married because we want the big wedding. We want this idea of love instead of actually knowing what love is. So I think to go along, someone had said that people are getting married too young. I think someone said that. I think you said that, Lindsay.
I did not.
You said that. Or getting married too young. I think I have a lot of friends that are married, and in my opinion, I think they are too young. But I think that because I see all these people that get married young and then they get divorced, but it's because they haven't found themselves. So I think if we taught our children to learn how to be how to be themselves and how to actually find who they are inside, we could promote us actually getting married early.
Well, then I wonder if that's true, if you can respond to this, if you think it's due to youth. Why is it that from the Christian frame, if a person and two people marry as virgins when they're young and they're Christians, their likelihood to divorce drastically decreases? I mean drastically.
Well, in my opinion, I believe it's because of this hookup culture in general. When you are virgins to begin with, you don't know really what you're missing out on, is what I view it as. So once you have had sex before, outside of it, then you're going to want to continuously have it.
I want to speak to this because I was a virgin on my wedding night. I'm going to speak to this. And I got married young. I don't think me not experiencing other men is the thing. I feel like I was able to connect with my husband on such an intense level because we weren't physical with each other and we got to know each other, 100%. Emotionally, deeply. Yeah. That's what you two were talking about earlier. But I also think I wish that people got married younger, not necessarily sooner. Like, you're not dating for 2 weeks and you get engaged, but I wish people would get married younger because you grow together. Whereas opposed to these people that are getting older or getting married older, you have all these separate 30. Finances.
Yeah.
And
you're not able to build.
I have friends who the wife pays the husband the mortgage every month. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
And so what the data shows is that yes, if you are virgins And yes, if you get married young and you're Christian, yes, your divorce rate's
but that's
drastically.
because they're Christians.
Yes, it is. But I thought that your primary thing that you wanted was to reduce divorce.
I do, but not because they believe that God thinks divorce is bad, but because they're actually happy in their marriages.
No. This contradicts what you just said. You just said that women are leaving their marriages because they're not happy inside of their marriage. I literally made sure to steel man it so that you would agree to it.
But you're saying it wrong. I said women are not getting married because they don't want to be with somebody.
No. Here was the steel man. I'll give it back to you. The steel man. Here's exactly what happened, and you can replay this if you don't believe me. I said, so you're saying women are initiating these divorces because the men are mistreating them, or in some way something wrong with the men, and you said yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that would still be the case, even with these Christians. So are these young men just way higher quality men?
Because Christians, especially more devout Christians, don't believe in divorce.
But
it's a very controversial thing, especially in your own community.
But they can still get divorced.
But it's not socially acceptable. Like, you can say that, but it's not.
I don't think it has anything to do with that.
It does.
Because my husband and I are not staying. My husband and I are
you
not
don't come from a Christian
divorced.
community. Don't be full of shit.
I come from a Jewish community.
That's not a Christian community.
But it's similar in the sense that
it's not similar.
Everybody's extremely Orthodox. They get married very early. They stay married for a very long time.
They don't give a shit about divorce. It's not a big deal next to those communities. It's not a huge deal.
I love how you're talking like you know.
I love how you're talking like you do. I'm telling you, in these Christian communities, which you're speaking on, just so that you understand, they are reporting their happiness levels much higher. They have less antidepressant use. They go to therapy and therapists far less. They have far less of these societal issues that you see. Stop talking. Almost done. Until yes, there are documented.
No, there's less antidepressants prescriptions because there's less therapy because they don't believe in therapy.
Then why is it?
Hang on. My husband and I go to therapy. We are actively in therapy.
Then how come the unaliving rates aren't higher?
Hang on, let me finish. Because we believe in marriage. I am not going to divorce my husband because of the fact that because the Bible says don't get divorced. I mean, that's part of it, but I feel like I want to work on my marriage. And so I do go to therapy and we do work hard on it. And it's not because strictly the Bible tells us not to, but good things take work.
A lot of women, especially if you're in a very religious community where your social points or whatever is dependent on how well you're doing in life, a lot of women don't necessarily want to divorce even if they're in a bad marriage or they're unhappy because they don't want everybody else to say certain things or they don't want to take that step with their life. They're very scared.
Wouldn't that lead to poorer outcomes?
It would lead to poorer outcomes.
Well, then where can you demonstrate the poorer outcomes? Because all of them are reporting that the outcomes are better. Not only are they getting divorced less, hang on, their kids are far less prone to get into any type of criminal activity at all. Their kids are far more likely to be stable in life. They're far more likely to graduate from high school. They're far more likely to do all of these things. And on top of that,
it's because of religion.
Well, you just got done saying it is. You just literally got done saying that's because there's all these incentives who keep them together.
Symptoms, and then you're saying that's all because of religion when I said one thing was because of religion.
Yes, but no. I just asked you, wouldn't they have worse outcomes? And you said yes, but when we look at the outcomes, they're not worse.
Not just because they're religious.
But they don't report they're unhappy.
But that's because they're not doing anything that would, like, how are they going to report it, please? If they don't go to therapy.
A Pew Researcher, exactly. A Pew Researcher could call them and say, are you unhappy? And they would say yes.
That's not how it happens.
It is how it happens.
No, that's not how it happens.
How is data gathered?
You do studies. You take a sample.
And in the study, how do they gather the data?
You take a study.
How do they gather the data for the study?
But I'm saying in this study.
How do they gather the data for the study?
The population in question, the population in question here, they're literally not going to therapy. They don't have to.
Yeah, that's because they're stable.
They go to their priests. They do their whatever.
Yeah.
You're saying they're stable because that's what the stats show. But
yeah.
They're not actually saying, like, they don't have.
They do. They literally use polling data.
How did they do
data.
They just called them up and they were like, hey, are you happy?
The same way that they do for secularists.
No, that's not.
But yes.
No,
they tell me how they do it.
They have therapists and they have antidepressants.
And for the religious, you have the priest and you have the infrastructure.
Okay, so are they going to the priests?
Yeah, sometimes they talk to people who are in the church, but just like with secularists, they'll also just call directly to the housewife.
They don't do that.
They do that. As part of a sample size, Pew will call people and literally ask them a series of questions to make a determination on their answers. How many people give similar answers to come up with data? Of course they do.
Okay.
Okay, then give me the alternative for how this is done.
You figure out the stats on how the doctors are prescribing antidepressants. You figure out how many people are starting to go to therapy compared to how many were years ago. You do all these different.
Yeah, but how would you determine individually who's unhappy and who isn't?
How would you determine individually?
By asking them like they do.
Okay.
I will say,
I don't really understand where you're going.
My
with this.
point is that if we look at the outcomes, you speak out of both sides of your mouth. You say it's not because of Christianity, but it's because of Christianity. Then when we look at the outcomes, I say the outcomes in this group far better for everybody. You say, but that's not because of the religion.
It's almost like not everything's black and white, and there's nuance.
That's
right?
why I'm happy to get in the nuance.
Might be because of Christianity, and other things might not.
Well, which things do you think may not
be? I think the fact that the stats show that they're happier, and the fact that they're getting divorced less, I think that is because their society, and a very, very Christian one. I'm not talking about a very secular society where there's some Christians.
Sure.
I'm talking about a devout Christian society where everybody is practicing very devoutly. Okay, in that sort of society, they're not.
Dude donated $199. Hey dog, you're 100% right on all. But criticism, you're talking to low IQ children focused only on emotion. At home/laughing will not teach them, even if their opinions are laughable. Just my 19,900 cents.
Thank you for those 19,900 cents. But
remember that this audience is also full of simps, and they don't like seeing women uncomfortable. But anyway, go ahead.
Whatever. This community is filled with people who believe in very similar values, and those values tend to be no divorcing, no therapy is bad, no antidepressants, these things are bad. And so all of the other stats that people would usually be able to base off in order to determine, is this community happy?
Hang on. Wait, are you saying that the Christian community says that it's bad to be on antidepressants and it's bad to go to therapy?
More devout Christian communities believe that, from my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think that's
absolutely
right.
Not.
That's absolutely wrong.
I will say that when you do accept Jesus into your life,
but are you guys
you're
actually right. Just so you know, yes, it is true that they often don't have to go to therapists because they have the infrastructure of therapy there. They have their priests, they have their community. They need it less.
Okay, so
and what ends up happening is, yes, you can make these determinations based on what these people are self-reporting, and you can look at their outcomes versus the rest of the population. That's how you would do the happiness index globally. You would look at the outcomes, who has the houses, and who's living with food in their belly, blah blah blah. You would add all that to a happiness index. Why wouldn't you add that same type of thing when it came to outcomes for individuals? Of course you would.